Hello all, and welcome to this. And I did my last video. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was the video before that. Some brought up the fact that I haven't really talked a lot about the ROH TV show, and I was like, you know, I haven't. And there's reasons for that. I'll get into that in a minute. But I'm also going to talk about kind of my thoughts on. Well, you'll see when I get there. So the ROH TV show. The reason why I haven't really talked a lot about it is because by the time I get around to where I probably would talk about it, I would have time to. I hadn't watched like that week's yet. I usually work Saturday nights, or most Saturday nights during the month. And here, where I'm at now, Oklahoma City, I get the TV show, but it doesn't air until like 9 o'clock, and I'm usually not home from work until about 10. So it makes it very hard, particularly since where I'm at, I apparently to get a DVR is ridiculous, to be honest, and Cox Table sucks. I would just like to point that out. I miss my Dish Network. I miss it so much that I can't have it here. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Oh yes, the TV show. But I do watch it, and I did figure I'd come on and give some roundabout thoughts of the show. So where I thought the show for their 1 hour wrestling show has been pretty good. I wouldn't call it great, but I would call it pretty good. I definitely watching the show can definitely tell. I've heard Dave Meltzer and I've heard lots of other people talk about the fact that really a 90-minute wrestling show is the perfect length. I always thought that was weird, but then I started noticing that, like Raw, and then I was thinking back to Impact as well. When you watch them, there's parts where you can definitely tell they're adding filler. I don't think they had the right type of filler, but that's another rant for another time. And so you have parts that drag. And if you have 30 minutes of a show that drags, of a 2-hour show, then you're risking, fans or viewers leaving and not coming back. Not coming back. So I've just really been able to notice it watching ROH, because it leaves you kind of wanting to watch more, and it's very formulaic, which I don't necessarily like. I kind of understand why they're doing it, I think, but you get basically 2 matches. It doesn't really matter who's in the matches. You basically need to get 2. They're going to go pretty long. There's really not any squash matches. Even matches where you think, okay, Team A is going to squash Team B, Team B ends up probably doing much better than they should, and I don't like that. I think last week. It's last week. I think it was this last week. You saw that with the World's Greatest Tag Team. I think it was this last week, and didn't like that. I'm seeing it with Ciampa as well and some other guys, and it just kind of bugs me to no end. But I do think that they're building up their storylines to Final Battle pretty well. You've got, of course, the whole Davey Richards, Eddie Edwards, Roderick Strong deal. More Roderick Strong and Davey Richards kind of feud going on, and then Davey and Eddie, which I think they've explained pretty well. You've got the whole Briscoe World Greatest Tag Team and All Night Express. You've got that whole thing, which I think they've done a pretty good job with. Though I do think World's Greatest Tag Team, as they're being used, is kind of, I don't want to say overstated or welcome, because I think they have a use in Ring of Honor. I think the thing with them, because they don't really, you have to remember, neither of these guys really have ever wrestled the indie style. They've still even, I think probably the closest thing I ever got was a really athletic WWE style. So to expect them, I think, to just go out and do an indie style is probably asking a bit much. However, I think the other thing is because of their style and because of the way that they work, after you see them face somebody twice, you pretty much don't need to go there again. It kind of gets old and repetitive kind of quick. And I think the best way to actually use them is you have fans, and Cornette has talked about this, where they'd like to bring in Japanese talent if the money's there, A, and if there is a sensible way of using it without just bringing in Japanese talent to bring in Japanese talent. I would think that bringing in Japanese talent to take on the World's Greatest Tag Team would be a pretty good idea. Makes sense, particularly if they lose the titles, trying to get back, trying to prove, maybe turning them heel a bit, and saying, they're too good for Ring of Honor, so they're going to invite, the real talent to come in and face them or something along those lines. I think that would be a better use for them. But I definitely think, they've done a really good job of featuring the Briscoes, and the Briscoes have looked really good. I think All Night Express has looked okay. I don't think they've really done a great job of making them look great. But I definitely think you have that. And then, of course, you have the whole Kevin Steen thing, which we're just now, from the last show, we're just now starting to see going on. Which I really think that Final Battle is probably going to hinge as far as how many people buy it, particularly those that have probably not seen Ring of Honor before, probably on that angle. Because I see that angle as kind of the money angle, if you will. And because pretty much, Eddie versus Davey versus Eddie, we've seen it before. Yeah, they keep talking about how great it is, but is it something that's going to just make people who've never seen Ring of Honor order an iPay-per-view? I don't know about that. The three-way, again, I think it'd be really good. I think it's captivating, but I don't think it's something that's going to, people are going to say, I have to order the iPay-per-view for that match. The Kevin Steen thing, I think probably so. So, I think that's good. Other than that, like I said, they keep bringing in these guys who aren't really Ring of Honor guys, and I think they've looked too good. And I don't think that's necessarily a great thing. And pretty much probably all I have to say. I mean, the only other thing that I would say is and this is somebody that's, watched Ring of Honor for a long time, is the roster is starting to kind of stale. And, I don't think WWE necessarily has this problem because they do a good job of kind of, I don't want to say rotating guys out, but, they'll put guys on different shows, and so, I think it helps that, though, it is what it is. But I think TNA suffers the same thing, where it's, the roster really hasn't changed much in probably about 5 years. And because of that, it gets stale because even the newer guys they bring in, they really don't use, it doesn't seem like it helps much. And I think that's what Ring of Honor is missing. I heard Sanders Robbins talk about this. Why he talked about all these guys that Ring of Honor doesn't use, and some of the guys he mentioned, I kind of understand why they don't use because they have contracts with other people. But there's other guys that I'm like, yeah, why aren't those guys? Particularly guys that have a unique look, guys that are different from everybody that's in Ring of Honor. I think that's Willie Mack being probably the biggest. I really think that a guy like him being brought in would probably be good because he does have a unique look, and he is good. He's very good. So I think a guy like him. You have other guys that that they probably don't have access to. So there is that. But I would reserve kind of judgment on that part of it until after Final Battle, because I do think that they're trying to get the guys they have under contract kind of signed, or not signed, but kind of over to a degree, because I really think probably going back, probably before even Gabe got let go, that the roster started getting a bit stale. You had guys that ended up kind of leaving or going away that they really didn't do a good job, particularly during Pierce's run of really replacing when Eric Stevens, for example, when he trimmed down, which was a huge mistake in my opinion. They missed a guy like that. Now I think they finally have a guy like that in Michael Elgin, and maybe Ciampa to a degree, but I would say more Michael Elgin. But you need a guy like that. You need a guy like Ciampa. You need a guy. You need different types of guys, just so that not every guy looks like the generic indie guy, which I think Ring of Honor sometimes falls into that category, as does most indies. But that is kind of what it is. But like I said, I'm willing to reserve judgment on that until after Final Battle, just to see if they're building guys up to Final Battle, and then after Final Battle, we kind of maybe see an influx of guys or see some new talent brought in. Because, you don't want to just start the show and then, have all these guys that you're trying to show people. But, you could probably use some of the guys that they probably should bring in as newer talent, though, on more of the house shows. Which the house shows are kind of an issue too, because now you have the iPay-per-views and the TV tapings, and that kind of cheapens the house shows, because unless it's a big house show, unless it has something behind it, a lot of house shows now are pretty much B shows, which would be considered B house shows, a lot of them, and markets that were they've already been in, are going to see them as B shows, and so you're going to have a hard time drawing, so you're going to have to rely on the TV, and I think we've already kind of seen that in St. Louis, where, St. Louis wasn't a big market for them anyways, but they ran there. That has, Ring of Honor is on there, and I think they drew like 300 fans or something like that, and that's not good enough. I mean, I think it's been reported they need to draw, Sinclair was hoping to average about 700 fans for the house shows. And, now that's the first one, and we'll have to wait and see, and all that sort of thing, and, that's not a big indicator, because there's other rumors about what the ratings are, which I'm not going to get into, because I find those numbers really kind of crazy. But, and I mean that in a good way, not want people thinking, oh, I mean that like, really? Are you serious? That kind of thing. But you have all of that. I've rambled for a while on this. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the show. I think the show's good. I think if you can watch it, I would say watch it. I think it's worth an hour of your time, I would say. There's usually good wrestling. I think they're still working on some of the kinks out still, as far as what works and what doesn't. And, like the Kevin Steen thing, where, the actors, the lawyers, that was crazy. Though the Kevin Steen part was really good. That part, not so sure about. Anyways, so we have that. I guess the next thing I want to talk about was, I haven't really talked about this, I don't think, in a while. This is probably something I should talk about, like, every 6 months or every 4 months. But just kind of where, as far as quality, I'm going to say quality. I'm not going to say, like, who are the top promotions in the world, because you have WWE, and WWE is like way up here, and then you have like New Japan, which is probably number 2, and they're like way, like, if you were to go here, and then here again, they're probably like down there. I mean, the difference is kind of would be the same as between UFC and Bellator and MMA. I think it's that big of a gap, as far as money and all of that sort of thing. I think I'm talking about the promotions. So, I'm talking about quality here. Kind of my favorite promotions at the time. Most people don't like Ring of Honor, of course. That's my thing. And then I would, right now, probably throw New Japan. I think New Japan over, probably, it's kind of funny, because and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but really when MVP, Antonio Banks, went to New Japan, I was kind of I was interested to see like how he would do, and there were matches that I definitely wanted to see, and because I'm a fan of his, and so I started watching, and I started enjoying it a lot more. And I think probably over the last few months, maybe 4 months, I think it's gotten really good. I think it's probably overall the best package as far as pro wrestling goes, and then I would throw Dragon Gate in there, and those three just kind of change all the time. Dragon Gate as far as Dragon Gate Japan, not Dragon Gate USA. Would be way down the list. Because Dragon Gate Japan is a lot of fun. The matches are usually really good, and there's a funness to Dragon Gate Japan that I think Dragon Gate USA is greatly missing. So those would be kind of my top 3. Most people know I'm a big Noah guy, but due a lot to injuries, Noah, I still think they've been putting on good stuff. I don't think they've been putting on like great stuff. And just seeing seeing the matches and seeing how few people there is kind of disheartening. Also, when you're watching this stuff. But I'd say that I think All Japan, I wouldn't put them on the same thing as Noah, but probably a little lower. But they've been putting on good stuff too. But my top 3 would be them, and then I follow WWE only so that I can come on here and hopefully get a bigger audience and talk about the things I want to and get more people watching it. But yeah, those would probably be my top 3. And then keeping up with WWE, and then probably Chikara would be right after WWE, only because I don't get to follow Chikara very much because, again, they're kind of low on the totem pole, and I do really feel that often it's you have to keep up with it, and if you don't keep up with it, you kind of get lost and stuff. Though, I do really like their stuff, so that's kind of just where I would put it right now. I definitely need to update my top 10. I don't know when the last time I updated that. I think it was sometime before. Definitely before Money in the Bank, because things need to change since Money in the Bank. But anyways, I've rambled on. This is probably a completely boring video, but anyways, it was just something I wanted to talk about. So I'm out. Have a good one. Later.